um, there is a very specific kind of digital sadness that I think we have all experienced at least once.
Oh, I already know where you're going with this.
Right. Like you buy a course or you join this exclusive mastermind, or maybe you just get invited to a group for a hobby you love and you get that link,
The golden ticket.
the golden ticket. You click it, you're excited, you're ready to meet your people, and you land in the chat, and it is just a ghost town.
Just a digital tumbleweed rolling right across the screen.
Exactly, just absolute radio silence.
Mm-hmm.
Or, or worse, it's just a poor founder posting these enthusiastic announcements into the void, and nobody is replying.
Maybe a thumbs up reaction from their mom.
Yeah, exactly, their mom and maybe a bot. And I think the assumption most of us make, me included, honestly, is that building a community is strictly a numbers game. Like, if you just gather enough humans in a digital room, conversation is just going to spontaneously combust.
It's that whole field of dreams mentality. You know, if you build it, they will talk.
Right, but they don't.
They really don't. And that is actually why most communities fail within the first 90 days. Because if you just open the doors without a blueprint, the whole house collapses. So today, we are doing a deep dive into the Brand Community Blueprint. It's a 2026 strategic guide. And what really distinguishes this source is that it stops treating community like a vibe.
Or a soft skill.
Right. It treats it like an operational system.
And that was the phrase that really caught me. It calls the failure of these groups a back-end clarity issue. So this isn't about being charismatic or being a famous influencer. It's about engineering.
Pure structural engineering.
The guide lays out this 9-step process to move from that vague idea of, I want a tribe, to actually having a functioning breathing machine. And honestly, I was so relieved to see a literal checklist, because I feel like most people just wing it.
Winging it is the absolute death knell. The source makes a really bold claim right at the start. It says, in 2026, community is not a content tactic.
It's not just another marketing channel.
Exactly. It's not a megaphone. It is an operational system that requires actual architecture. So, as we break down these 9 steps, I think you're going to see that about 80% of the work happens way before the first member ever logs in.
Which is so counterintuitive. We usually think the work starts when the people show up.
Not even close.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Step 1. It seems almost too simple, but the guide argues it's where everyone trips up immediately. It's define the purpose.
Yeah, simple to say, incredibly hard to do. The rule here is strict. You must be able to write one clear sentence that defines why the community exists. And here's the kicker. It cannot be for you. It has to be for them.
One sentence. Okay, so give me an example of a bad one. What does a fail look like here?
A fail looks like we're here to support fitness enthusiasts.
I mean, that sounds nice, though. Why is that a fail?
Because it's totally vanilla. It promises absolutely nothing specific. Supporting fitness could mean anything. Am I sharing smoothie recipes? Am I training for an Ironman? Am I recovering from knee surgery?
Those are 3 completely different conversations.
Right.
Yeah, if I'm training for an Ironman, I don't want to hear about your kale smoothie. I want to talk about aerodynamics and endurance.
Exactly. So the source gives a really great counterexample. Instead of supporting fitness, a strong purpose statement is, this community exists to help busy professionals stay consistent with their workouts despite demanding schedules.
Oh, wow. I see the difference. That creates a boundary.
It does.
It immediately tells me if I belong there or not. Because if I'm a pro athlete with all day to train, this isn't for me.
Nope.
But if I'm a consultant working 60 hours a week, I'm leaning in. I'm listening.
Precisely. Clarity creates alignment, and alignment is what creates engagement. If you can't write that sentence, the guide says you aren't ready to build. You're just lonely and want an audience.
Oof, that is a tough pill to swallow, but it makes perfect sense. Which leads us right into step 2. Define exactly who it is for. And again, the guide is practically yelling at us to stop being generic. It says, entrepreneurs is not a target audience.
It's just a label. It's a demographic, not a psychographic. To build a community, you really need a persona. You need to know what they are struggling with and what they've already tried. The source uses a really hyper-specific example here.
Let's hear it.
Female service-based founders earning under $250,000 annually who feel stuck at the same revenue ceiling.
That is painfully specific.
It is.
But I got to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
As a business owner, doesn't that scare you? Aren't you worried you're alienating potential customers by being that narrow? Like, what about the founder earning $300,000? Are we kicking her out?
That is the #1 fear, the fear of missing out on revenue. But in community building, the exact opposite is true. If you try to include everyone, you end up connecting with no one.
Because nobody feels safe.
Because nobody feels seen. The glue of a community isn't the content. It's that feeling of, oh, you too. I thought I was the only one.
Right, that shared struggle.
Yeah. If that female founder walks into a room full of 22-year-old crypto bros and drop shippers, she shuts down. She's not going to post. But if she walks into a room of other women stuck at that exact same revenue ceiling, the trust is instantaneous.
So specificity isn't about exclusion, it's about signal clarity. You're trying to get a clear radio signal through all the noise.
Exactly.
Mhm.
You're broadcasting on a very specific frequency. You want the right people to tune in and the wrong people to tune out, because the wrong people dilute the culture.
Okay, so we know why we're gathering and who is coming. Now we have to figure out where to put them. Step 3 is choosing the platform. And I feel like everyone just defaults to whatever is trendy right now. Oh, everyone's on Discord. Let's do Discord. Or everyone's on Slack. Let's do Slack.
And that is a massive trap. The blueprint says the decision should be based on member behavior, not trends. It introduces this really important concept called context switching.
Context switching. Break that down for us.
Basically, how much mental energy does it take for your user to switch from what they are currently doing to your community? You have to go where they already are. If you force them to download a new app, create a new login, learn a totally new interface.
You're adding friction.
So much friction. And friction is the enemy of habit.
Can you give us a concrete example from the source on how to make that call?
Sure. Think about the daily workflow. If you're targeting marketing directors at mid-sized companies, where are they all day?
They're in Slack or Microsoft Teams. That's literally their office.
Right. They're staring at Slack all day for work anyway. So a Slack community fits their existing neural pathways. It reduces friction. They can just tab over, check the community, and tab back to work. It's seamless.
But what if I'm building a wellness brand?
Then Slack feels like work.
Right?
You don't want to talk about meditation in the exact same app where you get yelled at by your boss.
No, definitely not.
For a wellness lifestyle brand, a Facebook group might actually be better because it feels more social. It feels more off the clock. Or maybe a dedicated platform like Circle or Mighty Networks if you're doing high-end courses. But you have to match the vibe to the tool.
That makes a lot of sense. But there is one critical rule the source mentions, regardless of the platform. I circled this in red when I was reading because it felt like a dire warning. It said, maintain email as your own foundation.
Non-negotiable. We call this platform risk. If you build your entire house on Facebook's land and Facebook changes the algorithm tomorrow,
Or bans your account.
or just becomes uncool, you are homeless. Your community is gone.
So the community can live on Slack, but you need their email addresses in your own database.
You must have a direct line to your people that you own. That is your insurance policy. If Slack shuts down tomorrow, you need to be able to email everyone and say, hey, we're moving to Discord. Here's the link. If you don't have that list, you have absolutely nothing. So smart. Okay, let's move to step 4. This is honestly my favorite part because it addresses that ghost town fear we talked about at the very beginning. The guide says, build structure before inviting.
This is the architectural phase. The biggest mistake is launching an empty room. Imagine walking into a dinner party and there's no music, there's no food, the lights are way too bright, and the host is hiding in the bathroom.
You leave immediately. You pull out your phone, you fake an emergency. Oh no, my cat is on fire, gotta go.
You leave and you never, ever come back. And that is exactly what happens when you invite people to a blank Slack channel. So how do we stage the house before we open the doors?
Well, the guide says we need to preload the environment. We need a welcome message, clear rules, a start here guide. But the most important tactical tip, and I really want to underline this, is to have 8 to 10 posts already live before the first member even joins.
Yes, this is crucial.
But wait, isn't that kind of weird? You're basically talking to yourself for a minute there. Isn't that faking engagement? It's not faking, it's seeding. Think about the psychological burden on that very first member. If the feed is totally blank, the pressure on them to post the first thing is massive. It's scary.
That's true. I never want to be the first one to dance on an empty floor.
Exactly. But if there are already 10 discussions happening, the pressure is totally off. The source gives an example of a community for aspiring authors. When they join, they shouldn't see a blank screen. They should see a post saying, introduce yourself. Another one saying, share your current writing challenge. Maybe a resource like a free outlining template.
It makes the space feel alive. It gives them permission to speak because someone else has already spoken, even if it's just the host.
It signals this is safe. This is active. This is what we talk about here. Structure builds confidence. You are teaching them how to behave in the space by showing them examples.
Okay, so the house is built, the furniture is arranged, the snacks are out. Now we hit step 5, the pulse. This is about keeping the thing alive, right?
Yes. The weekly operating rhythm. This is critical because consistency creates culture. Most founders just post whenever they feel inspired. Oh, I had a cool thought in the shower, I'll post it. That doesn't work.
It's too sporadic. People can't build a habit around your random bursts of inspiration.
Humans crave routine. We really need to know what to expect. The guide suggests having specific themes for specific days to lower the cognitive load for members.
Cognitive load meaning making it easier for them to think of something to say.
Exactly. If I just say, post something, you freeze. You think, is this good enough? Is it relevant? Will people care? But if I say, hey, it's Messaging Monday, post your elevator pitch for feedback, you know exactly what to do. The box is clearly defined.
I love that. This structure actually creates the freedom to post.
It turns the community into a habit. Instead of a random destination they visit when they happen to remember, it becomes part of their weekly workflow. Oh, it's Friday. I need to go post my wins in the wins thread.
And then we have step 6, launch small, then scale. Now, this feels really counterintuitive to me. I feel like the instinct for any business owner is to blast your entire email list, post on all your socials, and try to get 1,000 people in the door on day 1.
Yeah.
We want that vanity metric. We want to say, look, we have a huge community.
Of course we do. We all want the big number. But the source says, do not do that. It calls it the popcorn effect.
The popcorn effect, what is that?
If you throw 1,000 strangers into a room at the exact same time, it's chaos. Nobody knows the rules. Nobody knows the vibe. It's either deafeningly loud or it's dead silent. It's just kernels popping everywhere with no direction. But if you start with a beta group or founding members, maybe just 50 people, you can control the temperature.
So who are these 50 people? How do you choose them?
They're your warmest people. If you have a podcast, invite your most engaged listeners, the ones who actually email you. If you have an email list, invite the people who always reply. You want the people who already totally buy into your mission.
So you let this small, warm group establish the culture first.
Yes. They set the tone. They start the inside jokes. They model the behavior. They literally create the history of the group. Then, when the masses arrive later, they're not walking into an empty room or a chaotic room. They're walking into a party that's already hopping. They just have to join in the dancing.
That makes so much sense. You're incubating the culture. Engagement must precede scale.
That is the tattoo-worthy phrase right there. Culture must be formed before volume, because if you scale a broken culture, you just have a bigger broken culture.
Right. So we've launched, we have our founding members, now we're in the messy middle, maintenance. Step 7 is assign visible leadership, which basically means you can't just set it and forget it, right?
This is where the real work begins, and honestly, this is where most founders burn out. They think the community will just run itself.
It's that dream of passive income applied to human beings. I'll just let them talk to each other while I sip margaritas on a beach.
Which is a total myth, especially in the first year. Someone, whether it's you as the founder or a hired community manager, has to lead the room.
What does that look like day to day? Is it just policing bad behavior?
No, that's moderation. Moderation is playing defense. Leadership is playing offense. It's facilitation. The source suggests doing things like personally responding to every single introduction post in the first month.
Every single one. That sounds absolutely exhaustive.
It is a lot of work, but think about the ROI on that. If I join a group and the founder immediately says, hey, Dave, glad you're here. Tell me more about that project you mentioned. I am locked in. I feel so valued. The guide puts it simply. Community is built in dialogue. If leadership is absent, participation slows down.
It really is like a host at a dinner party walking around and introducing people to each other. Oh, you like sci-fi. You have to talk to Dave over here. He loves Dune.
Precisely. You are the connector. Now, eventually, the members connect themselves, but in the beginning, you have to be the bridge. If you hide in the kitchen, the party dies.
Now, how do we know if it's actually working? Step 8 is about metrics. And again, the source warns us against vanity metrics.
Right. Stop looking at the total member count. Growth tells you nothing about health. A community of 10,000 silent people is worthless compared to a community of 100 active ones.
So what should we actually be tracking?
You want to look at stickiness. Are people coming back? What is your daily active user count versus your monthly? But also look at conversation depth. Are people just dropping a thumbs up emoji or are they writing actual paragraphs?
And the guide mentions troubleshooting based on that data too. Like what if you see a lot of people reading posts, the lurkers, but nobody's actually commenting.
That's a diagnostic tool. It usually means your prompts are too hard, the barrier to entry on the conversation is just too high. You need to ask easier questions.
Like what? Give me a fix.
Well, instead of asking, what is your 5-year strategic plan,
Mm.
which requires me to sit down and think for 20 minutes, ask, what is one thing you want to finish this week? Lower the stakes. Make it incredibly easy to participate.
And on the flip side, what if the exact same 3 people answer every single question?
Yeah.
I've seen that happen a lot.
Hmm.
The loud minority.
That's a dominance problem. If those 3 people dominate, everyone else feels like a spectator. You need to introduce spotlight features to highlight other voices. Say something like, hey, Sarah, I know you have experience with this topic. What do you think? You have to proactively hand the mic to other people.
It's really like gardening. You have to prune here, water there. You can't just let the weeds take over.
Exactly. Healthy communities don't just happen. They evolve intentionally because you're watching the right data and acting on it.
And finally, step 9. This is the one that business owners have been waiting for. Integrating community into business strategy. Because eventually, this has to support the bottom line, right? We aren't running a charity here.
It does, but you have to be very, very careful here. The guide has a strict sales rule. It says sales should feel aligned, not aggressive.
So no spamming buy my stuff every day.
Please no. That burns trust instantly. If you treat the community like an ATM, they will leave. The community supports the business by offering things like early access or rapid feedback loops. It changes the dynamic from customer to co-creator.
The example in the source was great, the consulting offer. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so typical marketing is you build a product in a cave, you guess what people want, then you come out and try to sell it to them. Community-led business is entirely different. Before you launch a new consulting package, you go into the community and ask, what are your biggest challenges right now?
You get the data directly from the source.
You get their exact answers. Then you design the offer based on those answers. So when you pitch it to them, you're not really selling. You're saying, hey, you told me you had this problem, so I built this exact solution for you.
They feel heard, not sold to. It flips the dynamic entirely.
And the conversion rates on that kind of offer are through the roof compared to cold traffic. Because the trust is already established, they literally built it with you.
Now, we've covered the 9 steps, but the guide has this whole section at the end called the secret sauce, and it talks about authenticity, which is a buzzword we hear all the time. Everyone says be authentic. But how does this blueprint actually define it?
It defines authenticity as consistency between what you say and what you do. It's a mechanism, not a feeling.
Go on.
Well, if your community purpose is empowerment, but your actions, like how you moderate, how you speak to people, are controlling or dismissive, the community will fracture.
It exposes the misalignment.
The source explicitly says community magnifies authenticity. It also exposes misalignment. You cannot hide in a community. On social media, you can curate a persona. You post a polished photo and walk away. But in a community, you are interacting daily. If you promise transparency but dodge hard questions, trust breaks instantly.
That's a high bar. You really have to walk the walk.
You do. It forces you to be a better business owner. It holds you accountable.
Before we wrap up, I want to do a quick reality check on the timeline, because I think people have really unrealistic expectations. They launch, and if it's not booming in 2 weeks, they just quit.
Yeah.
What's the reality here?
The guide is very clear about this, and it is pretty sobering. Expect to invest 3 to 6 months before strong patterns form.
3 to 6 months. That's a long time to talk to a quiet room.
It is the valley of death for communities. That means 3 to 6 months of you showing up, leading the room, sticking to that weekly rhythm, even if it feels like nobody is listening, even if you're the only one posting on Messaging Monday.
That requires serious grit.
It does, but the payoff. A group of people who are deeply loyal, who speak your language, and who eventually sell your product for you because they believe in it so much, you are building an asset that compounds over time.
And you don't need a huge audience to start.
No. The source emphasizes this explicitly. A small, engaged group is infinitely more powerful than a large, passive one. You do not need 1 million followers to build a thriving community. You need clarity. You need 50 people who care.
So let's recap the operational system here. We're not just opening a Slack channel and crossing our fingers.
Well, wait.
We are defining a specific purpose for a specific person. Not entrepreneurs, but female founders stuck at a revenue ceiling. We are choosing a platform based on their behavior, not our preference. We're taking context switching into account.
Hmm.
We're preloading the content so the room isn't empty staging the house.
Right.
We're establishing a weekly rhythm to lower cognitive load, launching small to build culture, avoiding that popcorn effect, and then leading from the front.
And tracking health, not just growth, and integrating it into the business in a way that feels helpful, not salesy.
It really takes the mystery out of it. It moves community from magic to management.
That is exactly the goal.
So here is the question we want to leave you with today. The source said, community magnifies authenticity. It also exposes misalignment.
Such a powerful thought.
If you open the doors to a community for your brand today, would your back-end structure back up your public promise? Or would the silence in the room expose a lack of clarity?
You can't write that one-sentence purpose. Stick to the drawing board a little longer.
The blueprint is there. You just have to follow the steps. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.